sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
When they get a lead, it's like they're like, let me get mine. Like, it doesn't go to Anthony or Cat. Like, everybody has the green light. And Ken and Shaq will tell you, everybody on a team can't have the green light. It doesn't work like that. You're not going to be successful. Like some guys, you have to know your role and what you're good at. When I watch Minnesota play, man, they got a tremendous amount of talent. But you're like, and I said at halftime, I said, they're always going to let you back in the game between bad shots and turnovers. And it came back to bite them again.
I mean, he kind of said the same thing that was Charles Barkley, obviously, on Inside the NBA after the Game 3 debacle. But when you think back and reflect on that game, and we did a full vent line, you can find the fan reaction, everything on the Mackey and Judd podcast feed and Score North YouTube channel. But there was a portion of the game where Taurean Prince is getting his, right? Okay, it's my turn to shoot 4 times in a row. And then Pat Bev. And there, not that there's not a hierarchy, because like Cat is getting the most opportunities, but it wasn't D'Lo's turn at the end of the game. He's had a terrible series, a terrible game. It's not your turn to take the game-winning shot in that situation. Why are you taking the shot, right? So there needs to be more of a hierarchy in certain situations. I think Barkley nailed it 100%.
I just love how Barkley thinks they're the stupidest team on the face of the earth, and he just keeps saying it in different ways.
Prove him wrong.
No, I know, but it's hilarious because he's always like, they're going to, basically his premise of every important Wolves game is, don't worry, they'll screw this up.
Yeah, well, he's mostly right.
I know.
It's amazing. They have.
I know.
We're 5 games into the series. They've won 2 games outright. They've had a 26-point lead and then an 11-point lead to start the fourth quarter in 2 of the other games. And they're losing the series going back home to Game 6. It's incredible.
But I'm going to tell you right now what we talked about on Wolves Vent Line last night remains true, which is I am so screwed up in the mind sports-wise that last night, which should infuriate me, doesn't, because Game 3 was so bad. Like, that's how, like, I feel like I'm sports dad and a doctor of sports, but I need my own therapist to talk this out with. Like, how can I not be more upset? And I legitimately, I mean, this is not an act. I'm not.
It's like you're, I'm trying to think of a comparison here. It's like you got grazed by a car or something on the sidewalk. Like, dude, you got hit by a car. And you're like, oh, you should have seen what happened to me last week. I got hit by a bus and fell off a skyscraper or something. You know, you're like desensitized to what happened last night.
I'm worried about myself right now. I'm sports worried.
You've lost your ability to feel.
Yeah, I mean, they blew a lead in a key road game in which they should have won, and I can't get worked up. What's wrong with me?
Well, let's maybe see if we can get you worked up here. Let's dish out some blame.
Now on Mackey and Judd.
This chart makes it as clear as I can to you.
The pie chart of blame.
You want to blame somebody?
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
I have for you guys a pie chart of blame for a Timberwolves loss in Memphis last night.
All right.
We also have on Mackey and Judd today, write that down predictions and an accountability session. And between those two things, I'd like to tell you a story about how it's top 3 most scared I've ever been in my life this morning.
Wow.
Judd has not heard the story. Declan saw my wife post about it on social. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. But let's start with the pie chart here. 4 slices of pie. We'll start with the smallest slice, and I hate doing this because I love this guy so much. He hit such a big shot to tie the game, but Anthony Edwards gets 10% of the blame for attempting to go for a steal on Ja Morant's game-winning layup. And he even said in the post-game press conference, it wasn't a reactionary thing. I was thinking about getting the steal before the inbound. So he was planning on trying to jump the pass. And if he stays in front of Ja in that moment, there was 3.5 seconds left. Ja gets the ball outside the 3-point line. If he stays in front of Ja does not just blow right by him. He probably dribbles for a couple seconds and then pulls up for a contested long 2-point jumper or something and probably clanks it, and they go to overtime.
So I got a question about that. So if that was his plan coming into the possession, did the coaches sign off on that plan, which I have trouble believing?
No, he didn't. He just didn't say anything.
And but I mean, to me, that's a major problem. The game's tied. So if they're down, totally get it. you're trying to do something, basically a desperation play. But this was not desperation time. It was time to be smart. So I guess what I don't understand is the breakdown just in the entire system of him deciding that he was going to freestyle it at that point, when I think every basketball person would have told him, dude, this ain't the time to do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously he went rogue, because if he would have said in the huddle, I don't think Finch was telling him, dude, go pick his pocket. No, you stay in front of him, force the jump shot. I know Ja hit a big three to put the Grizzlies in front, a minute earlier, but he's not a good shooter. And if you can get a hand, now the three that he hit to put him in front was a wide open, uncontested three. If you can put a hand in his face, I will take my chances all day, as opposed to a wide open freight train drive down the lane. And even if he decided to not lay it in, there was a backdoor cutter and one defender. I think it was Jared Vanderbilt. It was a 2-on-1 to win the game. So credit to Ant it was a weird game for Ant, because he hit the heroic three to tie it. He wound up with 22 points, but he only had 1 rebound, no assists, no steals, no blocks. He's been filling the box score in this series, and last night it was just kind of a different. He was in foul trouble last night too. So 10% for that mental lapse defensively. 25% to D'Angelo Russell. Awful shot selection in the fourth quarter. He decided, I'm going to take the game-winning shot here with 20 or 15 seconds left, even though he's shooting 32% for the series, and he has scored 12 points or fewer in 4 of the 5 games. This is not the time to force. Dude, you are a non-factor offensively right now. Have some self-awareness. It doesn't mean that you're not going to bounce back at some point, because he usually does. But right now, it's not your time to take a contested fadeaway shot at the buzzer. It is your job to facilitate the offense, the ball movement. And if the ball comes back around to you, swinging it around, and you're wide open, dial it up. But to force a shot with no ball movement in that situation, and this is kind of a series achievement slice of pie for D'Angelo Russell, culminating with that ridiculous break that he put up, 25% to D'Lo.
What's most disappointing about this, I think, is the fact that in the play-in game against the Clippers, he was so good. And I think we thought, okay, pressure was on, Cat was terrible. This is it. This is D'Lo. This is going to be D'Lo. And for the most part, largely this series, he's been a complete bust. It's been disappointing. He hasn't stepped up. And so I think he sort of teased us with the Clippers game, as far as, okay, bright lights were on and you played really well, to what the hell happened? And I think we're back to where we were at some point during the season now, which is really questioning whether this team is best going forward with him. I feel like we got past that hump. He played well, and we're like, okay, now we get it. And now we're going back to, but when it's the most important, he really has, if not no-showed, let you down.
Yeah, I'm gonna save those discussions for after the series, because I emptied the chamber with my Karl-Anthony Towns takes after Game 3. Almost all of the takes that I threw out there, I stand by. I also stand by entertaining trades for anyone not named Anthony Edwards. He's the nucleus and the core of this team. So I'm not, listen, I want this team to get better. It's not about one individual player, but Ant, I think, is the centerpiece for this thing long term. And I don't know how much further, if you get beat by Memphis, let's say in 6 games, I just don't know, because you're going to have to commit to big money, D'Lo and Cat extensions. D'Lo's a free agent after next season.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out, all right, do you want those guys combining to make almost $70 million? Is that the best way to put talent around Anthony Edwards long term? I'm not saying get rid of both. I'm just saying these are conversations that have to start this offseason. But we'll see. There's a Game 6. I think they're, if I had to pick right now, I think they're going to win at home in Game 6, and then we have a Game 7 in Memphis. We'll see.
It'll be electric. It'll be fun.
All right, 30% of the pie chart of blame goes to the Timberwolves giving Memphis extra chances. So this is just like team buffoonery here. The Wolves were out-rebounded on the offensive boards 18-6 last night. Brandon Clark had more offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter than the Wolves had in the entire game.
Yes.
Turnovers, Wolves 22, Grizzlies 16. And so if you take the turnover gap and the offensive rebounding gap, that's 18 extra possessions for Memphis in that game. Just getting the ball back or getting an extra shot attempt or whatever it may be.
Was there any point in the fourth quarter when it came to that statistic where you recall now that the Timberwolves got a keyboard? Like it felt like at every juncture in the final quarters that Memphis got every single one of them.
Yeah, and Clark had the controlled tap out to John Morant, wide open top of the key three to put the Grizzlies in front for the first time. The rebounding, I get it. Memphis is the best rebounding team in the NBA, and they're the best offensive rebounding team. So there's going to be some games here where you get smoked on the boards a little bit. I'm not saying it's acceptable because it should be a focus point, but I get it. You're at a rebounding disadvantage against Memphis. The turnovers and the offensive fouls are the thing that are the most preventable. These situations where they're just dribbling the ball off a leg or making a dumb pass or not slowing down or barreling into a defender,
That's the Cat playbook, man.
Well, hell, Cat he picked up what looked like his fourth foul on that offensive foul. I thought it was a charge. I know the defender was moving, but he deliberately lowered his shoulder into him, and they reversed it, and he stayed in the game. But man,
I think that might have been a national TV. We really would like to keep this guy in the game as long as possible call.
Well, why? But they haven't done that ever before with him. Yeah. That would be the first time that they've made that conscious decision with Karl-Anthony Towns.
Hey, things change. Exactly right.
Well, let's get to the here, because this is my last slice of pie. 35% to fourth quarter incompetence, and Cat was mostly brilliant. But let's go through the list here. So the Timberwolves have now been outscored in the fourth quarter by 44 points in this series. Mm-hmm. Last night they were outscored by 9, I believe, in the fourth quarter. Well, no, more than that, 13, because they were up by 11. The offense turns into hero ball instead of moving the ball around and getting open looks, which is the reason why they were the number one scoring team in the NBA. Ball movement stops. The Wolves are now the first team in NBA history to blow 2 double-digit fourth quarter leads in the same series. And to me, I look like, whose fault is this? Okay, well, Finch, we can get mad at Finch, but ultimately, Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and I would put it more on the older, the 26-year-old dudes than the 20-year-old guy. There's turbulence. You're flying this plane. It's up to you to fly the plane through turbulence and not just take wild shots and take shots early in the shot clock. And I think hushing the crowd, the Karl-Anthony Towns hushing the crowd halfway through the fourth quarter with a 13-point lead. Focus, dude. Focus. Yep. A teammate had to come over and grab him and be like, dude, no, let's. And again, he was pretty damn good last night, so I'm not going to get on him too much, but the hushing the crowd thing, I'm all for having fun, but let's have a little awareness here. This game is not over by any means. You have done nothing in your career to warrant taunting that crowd. Just play, dude. Focus and play and grind and win.
Yeah, and a Timberwolves player at this point in time should never be addressing that crowd ever. Like, there's no street cred there. You have no credibility. As a franchise.
I agree.
People laugh at you. Like you are being laughed at. And so, but I think, Phil, your last point there, last piece of pie gets to a very interesting discussion of a question that's going to be have to be asked when the Wolves playoffs are done, which is this. How many players on this team, and this is going to sound like an incredibly stupid question, but it has to be asked, especially on this show, given our goals, have a championship DNA? Because I would say D'Lo does not. I think it's a big debatable on Cat. I think Ant very well could. But I'm talking about guys, because here's the important thing to keep in mind about that stat. What you can't say is, well, yeah, but the Wolves don't have playoff experience, and Memphis, actually, this collection of Grizz don't have a ton themselves. I mean, Ja came into this playoffs with as many playoff games as Cat had, 5.
Correct.
So
and people kind of write the Houston series off like, well, that doesn't really count. Why not? It should.
It counts as the experience, though. Like, I don't care how bad that was. That was playoff experience.
Oh, yeah.
My point being is I think some judgments can be made about players off of this series, because it's not like you were thrown in to play the 98 Lakers where you're just like, oh, of course you lost that one. Like, you are going up against a team that you're very comparable to as far as experience goes, reference points go. And so what we're seeing, to me, and these fourth quarter collapses cannot be dismissed as, well, it's the Wolves, give them a break.
Yeah, no, I think, well, part of it is they need to go as a team here. They don't have, Memphis doesn't have experience, but now they're just Timberwolves. So the Wolves need to go through some of this stuff to figure out, okay, what happened? How do we not blow leads? How do we keep the ball moving? And so on one hand, I want to be empathetic to, they do need to go through some of this, and this is great experience. But I'm also weighing what you just said on the other hand, which is how much of this is just great experience and you're going to come out on the other side versus, oh no, this is kind of the DNA of the team is to be bumbling idiots when they have double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. How do you parse the two apart, And
Ant screwed up, no question, but I think Ant will learn. D'Lo? I don't know. Like, I can't sit here and say D'Lo is going to take this experience, and he's going to be great. I don't know that. Ant, I have a ton of faith in that the mistakes that he is actively making right now will improve him.
Yep. So there's the pie chart. 10%. Sorry, Ant. Love you, dude, but that was just a boneheaded defensive play at the end, trying to pick the pocket of John Morant on that inbound. 25% to D'Lo, 30% to giving Memphis extra chances, and 35% to fourth quarter incompetence.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
It's a good thing I was wearing a pair of Chill Boys last night during that fourth quarter because it kept me a little more cool, calm, and collected down there than maybe I would have otherwise felt. What's one word to describe how Chill Boys are making you feel in the wake of a Timberwolves blown double-digit fourth quarter lead?
Anticipation.
Comfortable. Yeah, comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
Anticipation?
Yes, because tomorrow night at Surly, where we're going to be outside, I'm anticipating being very comfortable and warm with my Chill Boys long johns on.
Yeah, me too. I got them ready to rock and roll. Might have to double up. I have two pairs of long johns. I might put them both on. See what happens.
Oh, you're going to double up?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
Well, that's a little much. It's not that.
No. It's not gonna be like below zero. It'd be like 4. Chill Boys are a Minnesota-based company. It's the most comfortable underwear that we've ever put on as a show, collectively. And you can find them online at chillboys.com, where you can order a pair or 10 for yourself. Chillboys.com. Excuse me. So the reason I'm like a little phlegmy here is I sprinted 3 blocks with a 20-pound dog in my arms this morning. I want to tell you this story here. So I'm sort of laughing about this now. It is top 3 most scared I've been in my life this morning. And Declan saw the post that my wife put out on social media. So, Judd, you have not heard this story yet.
No.
But, the audience knows, for the most part, I live in the Pacific Northwest, make visits back to the Twin Cities. And so we live in the Seattle area. We live in a pretty urban neighborhood. It's a couple miles north of downtown Seattle. And it's an area where there are coyotes in and around. And we actually saw a couple smaller coyotes in the neighborhood just kind of wandering around at night a few months ago. But, there's coyote sightings and stuff. So we just got Maya. She's a 18-pound Chihuahua Terrier mix. And we adopted her from the Humane Society. We've had her for about a month now. And so we don't really have we're working on this now, but we have a backyard area, but it's mostly concrete. It's like a concrete patio kind of. So when we take her out to go potty, we take her out around the block to find little patchy areas of grass. So we get up pretty early. I tend to work on Central Time, and my wife works on East Coast Time still, just based on the nature of our job. And so we're up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We're 5 a.m. club. And Maya usually sleeps through the night, but she's been getting us up around 4:30 sometimes, which whatever. It's for us, we're getting up around that time. So this morning, and usually my wife takes her out the first time in the morning, and then I take her out middle of the day, and then another time, and whatever. And this morning, because I'm going to be traveling back to the Twin Cities for the Surly draft party and stuff, Maya kind of woke us up, and I said, "Hey, you stay in bed. I'll go take her out this time." It's dark. It's 4:30 in the morning. There's not a whole lot happening. And so we walk outside on our normal route, and we go. The streets are they're all very much slanted. It's like San Francisco, sort of, not quite that aggressive, but you're going up and down. So we go around outside, go down our normal route, halfway down the block, and we start going down the hill to the normal spot that we go to, and we're about to make the loop. There's a stairwell that goes down to sort of the bottom of the hill. I'm explaining this poorly, but we're walking down the block, and there's a stairwell ahead that takes you kind of down to another level of the neighborhood. We've seen a coyote there before, but it's been a few months. So we're like maybe 30 or 40 yards down the street now as we walk. And I happen to look over my shoulder, and I see a German Shepherd size coyote and its friend coming up to the top of the steps and walking out onto the sidewalk. And we're like 30 yards away. Now, Maya didn't see it because she was busy like sniffing around to go poop, pee, whatever.
Right.
My first thought was, oh, yeah, I mean, coyotes don't usually interact with people much. They'll seem, whatever. It's a little close for comfort, but yeah. The other 2 times I've seen a coyote, they just kind of run away and go on their path. So I said, Maya, let's go. Come on. Let's keep walking. So we start walking, and I look behind, and one of the coyotes is following us. It just starts walking. And I'm like, okay. So now I pick Maya up because she's not super, we take her to group training classes next week. So she's not super trained on like, heel, come, stay, whatever. So I pick her up.
Right.
And I walk to the other side of the street just to see what if we go over here, what's going to happen? Coyote follows. So now I'm kind of freaking out because there's no one else around. It's dark. There's 2 of them. One of them is following. The other one is kind of staying back. And I'm just, my pulse is just racing out of my neck because I don't know how is this coyote just looking to attack the dog, which by the way they do. Like they eat cats and like they'll attack small dogs and stuff.
Yes.
Is it going to come at me? I don't know. So this was probably the only dumb thing I did was I picked her up, and when I saw that it was following, I started running. I just ran a block down the street. It started running after us.
Oh my God.
I'm getting chills telling the story right now.
Yeah.
I was like, my pulse was racing out of my neck. So we get to the end of this block. So now we've made I'm going to draw it on the screen. So we kind of go down the block, and now we're going over.
Yeah.
So we're like halfway through our 1 block around path.
Yep.
And now I'm going to go back up the hill on the other side. But now I realize, okay, if running is the worst thing you can do because now they think I'm scared and now they're wondering why are you running, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I turn around and I start backing up the hill holding the dog. And I just want to see what happens when I back away, right? And the coyote stopped running after us, but was walking at the same pace, 30 yards away still, coming at us as I was walking backward. And so I'm thinking, I can't. I'm 2 blocks away from our front door. I can't just like run and get in the front door.
Right.
So I can't duck into a building. There's nothing, like it's a residential area. So what do? I literally had her in my arm, and I got an arm up in the air, and I'm going,
Yeah, 'cause that's what scares them.
And and at first the coyote kind of flinched and started going the other way, but then stopped and started walking back at me. And I'm like, Jesus, dude. And the second coyote had gone somewhere else at this point, thankfully.
Just took a powder.
I guess. And so I kept doing it for like a couple minutes, and finally the coyote just like started walking back the other way. And then I just I grabbed Maya and just kind of power walked back up the hill and back down the block, and
it quit pursuing.
It quit pursuing. And we finally just like, and I tried to put her like back down to like, we got to finish the potty here. Like that's the goal of being out here. And she was just like, I'm not going to move it that way.
And you're lucky she didn't freak in your arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's,
we made it back inside the house. But
when you were getting big and like trying to threaten the coyote, what was she just looking? Like, was she barking?
She was just like kind of tucked in like a football. She was just, I think she was just,
it's a good dog.
She was at first, she could sense obviously that I was like,
there was fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think then she saw the cat. So I think she kind of knew, oh, this is a dangerous situation. And so now we've been just like trying to figure out what do we, how can we turn our small little back patio area into like, is there like, synthetic turf we can put down so that we don't have
to. Can't you carry spray?
Yeah, so we have bear spray and stuff, but it's a freaking residential area, and like this
right. But just in case, next, I mean, you don't want to have this again.
Yeah. So it was legitimately top 3 most terrified I've been in my life.
I bet.
Going through that this morning.
Oh,
I don't know if anyone has any similar experiences.
I was once on a walk, and I lived in the southeastern side of St. Paul, Battle Creek neighborhood, kind of on the border of Maplewood, Woodbury, and we lived in a very wooded area. So there was deer and turkeys and even coyotes. And I remember one time I was on a late night walk home from college during one summer, and all of a sudden, about 15 feet in front of me, just and this was a little coyote, definitely not like a big strong one, but a little coyote, and just kind of just walked across the street. But that freaked me out enough to be like, well, I'm turning around and going back home right now, even though it's in a very residential safe area. And then another time, there's a scenic outlook that takes a little bit of a path outside of my house. It overlooks St. Paul and Pig's Eye Lake on Highway 61. And all of a sudden, a pack of coyotes just started howling. I couldn't see them, but it was like the Timberwolves howl sound, and then all of them. And that caused me to run out of those woods as fast as I possibly could.
Which is like also
dumb,
the
very
worst
dumb.
thing you can do too. Yeah. But yeah, dude, this was, and like the smaller ones, I don't know. You think, I guess if it came down to it, I could figure it out. But the one that was following us was not, I don't know how to describe it other than like, it was a full ass grown man coyote. It was,
right.
It was not just like a little dude. It was like, think of the biggest German shepherds that you've seen. That was what was staring at us from 30 feet away and following us for 2 blocks and stalking
Probably
us.
scared.
Yeah, poor Maya.
So now I gotta take her out again here in a little bit. It's light outside, so hopefully.
Yeah, it's light out. You should be fine. Dusk I think it starts at dusk, right? It goes through night where they're a problem.
Yeah. Where the girlfriend lives in Matamidi, they have like coyotes around there, like actively. And like if we put Vinny on the leash to go outside in the middle of the night, like we do have to go outside with them because we can't see, and there will be a coyote that can come through. So that's
you get
fun.
some here. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
Well,
so anyways, I was I was wearing my Fitbit, and my pulse was almost 100 for an hour and a half after that happened. I was just because I laid back in bed for a little while, and I was just like,
yeah,
oh my god. And then thinking about how to handle it going forward and whatever.
And now you know how Greg Joseph felt when he trotted on the field in Arizona.
Just,
and
oh
we
my
all
god,
mocked him for missing that field goal.
Hilarious. So, all right, we're going to take a quick pause here and get to some write that down predictions and an accountability session. Ow.